It's a good question, because I think they really did force their playstyle on the meta, and at TI it worked out great, and for Tour 1 I think it worked out really well, but then with the recent patch it seemed to stop working. And I think now they've learned they've got to kind of adjust a bit, and we're seeing T1, for me, week 1 they look like one of the weakest teams compared to expectations. But now, you know, we're starting week 3 and we've seen noticeable improvement.
And, you know, fun little fact, Abaddon also has a 100% win rate in Division 1.
Okay.
It was pointless, but I just wanted to say it.
I like it a lot. It's when
useful info.
Yeah.
Every time it's been picked, it's done really well. It's always been picked in great situations, and do you think this is one of them?
I think it's great against T1's lineup, but I do think that they really lack damage right now, and it's something that desperately needs to be addressed. Not with that. That's not damage.
I think my favorite thing is seeing an AM and knowing who's casting this game.
What is happening with this draft? Okay, like, I'm gonna complain. I'm gonna do it. They have
do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Unleash the sheep.
Who is making space for your anti-mage right now? It's really, really hard, I think, to play into T1's heroes. We saw last game, not, you know, in the last series, how effective Necro is at kind of abusing his lane and being a thing on the map that is very hard to kind of get past. I don't think Execration has any damage whatsoever right now to kill him. Like, Dragon Knight's not going to do any damage until he gets his shot at 15. This is presumably gyro support, or they're putting it off lane, and I'm not sure, like, how effective that will be, and Abaddon literally just doesn't do damage. So, your anti-mage who wants to farm, how is he going to do anything to kind of solve those issues for you? I feel like their last pick has the entire world on his shoulders. And you have to deal with a Sand King with super low cooldown stuns, just making space everywhere. Like, they don't even have. Oh god. Okay.
What if they gyro mid?
What if
against Necro?
Okay.
What if?
Is that
keep going? Keep going.
That's the what if. I don't know.
And everything else?
Gyro mid, huge magic damage potential. Max your home, missile your rocket barrage, just get a lot of magic damage online early. 15-minute shard, super sick. That's how you maybe play into this Necro mid.
And how would that help with their last pick?
Last pick, you're just looking for a 4 position. 4 positions are generally heroes that do a lot of damage. You get like a Hoodwink or something. You get a, I don't know, what's another 4 that does lots of damage? I feel like there's
Lion
a lot
eyes.
Lion. You know, Dark Willow, a bit out of the meta.
Hoodwink and Hoodwink.
It's like Hoodwink, Dark Willow. Mirana can maybe do okay with the DK stun setup. Like I see a DK Mirana lane working.
I really see that.
That's a lot of big ifs because I don't think we can see Dark.
I mean, it's just it all sounds rough to me because like as well when you look at their lineup, they lack catch. You need the Blink Dagger and Dragon Knight for stun, but you have a lot of high priority targets on T1 so far that you need to catch. Like Keeper of the Light is super elusive and so hard to deal with in fights if you don't catch him. So say you Dragon Knight stun that, well then you have a grip that's going off. You have, well, I mean, I guess they can push that one, so that's a fair enough. But then you have like the Sand King stunning, you have Necro going through. Like they just don't have any real lockdown. It's so hard.
And now they're going into a line that's going to try and like run over them, deathball them. Like we've talked a bit about Gabby and his heroes and playstyle that's been working best. These aggressive carries, well, he busts out a Luminous. His hero that can kind of flash farm and play greedy, but you come online in a very strong way in the mid game and you're looking to end the game with like 2 or 3 big items, usually fighting around your BKB timing, fighting around an Aegis. And that's something Execration may not be ready for because AM, slower pace, greedier carry.
I hate anti-mage. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, Mike.
It's looked really bad in SEA, but then every now and then we'll tune to another region. Like I think in Europe it's being picked quite a bit and having a bit more success. You know, you see those first 4 heroes and you're like, yeah, this should be a great AM game. Like soul magic damage.
But then you get to the point of what their draft is going to do, and now how do they fight around the Roche pit and so and so. Like they really need some extremely fast tempoed like fighting mid. I feel like unless you genuinely believe the gyro could do it, like
I think DK. I mean that's what T1 think. They think DK is going mid.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned they need that catch, and I guess DK mid is just going to get a faster Blink Dagger. The shard, like Blink Shard, realistically can come up like shortly after 15 minutes, or maybe even around 15.
I want like a puck or something. Maybe. Leshrac is
comfort, I guess. Their last win was with Leshrac.
Yeah, you're right. Bob's a really good Leshrac.
I want to bring in Mike and John for this conversation, and obviously ask Mike straight up thoughts. Say it.
I I can't wait for game 2, Nat. That's all I can say. I can't wait for game 2 to roll around so we can. I don't know, man. Well, what does this anti-mage do? Like, they're not going to be able to create the space. There's a billion ways to catch him out this game. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
We got a mid Sand King, by the way. That's kind of spicy.
That is pretty good.
Yep.
Do you like
it's
it
a
less?
shift up there. It's been a while since I've seen it. Again, the guy who used to run it was really Yopaj, and that was always something Mike wasn't a big fan of as well. I think it kind of works in this matchup. So up against a Lesh, it doesn't feel like the easiest lane, but I still feel like T1 has that momentum going for them. AM's just, it's a tough hero to get online, and we just haven't seen it work in C.
You guys, are you with Mike in the AM trash, or are you against him? Are you a believer?
I actually believe in Bob's Leshrac, but I don't believe in Palos AM. Well, no, not Palos AM. I just don't believe in AM.
Okay,
Palos
okay.
is great.
But which team would you like to side with?
T1.
Yep.
I'm the same. I think AM's actually not as bad as SEA teams make him look. I just think SEA teams can't play AM well because they want to fight. So
You might
I'll
have
go with T1 as well.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you might have an argument on your hand, Mike, but you don't, as we are heading into game number 1 between T1 and Execration.
Well, thank you very much, Nat. We do go into game number 1 here with johnxfire. John, Anti-Mage comes out again for, I think, the 3rd time in the last 2 days. Are these teams trying to prove a point against me, or are they really thinking Anti-Mage will work?
I mean, it's Palos, right? Like, we've seen his AM before. He tends to play it really well. It's just that, I don't know. Like, you have decent enough hold from T1. You have pretty good momentum in Execration side. Bob has to go off to a running start. We saw both teams mention in the interview, you know, mid is going to be the priority. And we tend to see T1 with a really aggressive movement on the supports work out that mid. And I think that's a worry because Gyrocopter can be aggressive. Abaddon, not so much. It can be a good save to disrupt T1's jump in, but I can see Carl doing really well in the Sand King. Again, Leshrac has wide AoE. He can clear out waves pretty fast. Sand King can still control the lane pretty well. The range on Caustic is obnoxiously large. Like, it's 500 units. So Leshrac can still be caught within it if he's trying to clear out the creep wave. And that gives the Sand King a pretty good amount of harassment in the lane, especially by level 3 there.
Good luck, have fun's coming out. Good sportsmanship from these two teams as well, John. Before we do get into game number 1, I do at least like Bob on the Leshrac. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Bob Leshrac coming out. We always like to talk about it, but, you know, maybe they can win 4v5 without this anti-mage, John. That's the way I see it. So, Carl... I mean, here's the thing, John. I mean, one day this AM's going to win, and I'm going to look like a complete idiot. But until then, you know, until I'm like 60 years old, I think I'm pretty safe.
Hey, we've seen it win before. Just not, you know, in this patch. Maybe not in the last, I want to say 3 months at the least. I think we've seen it here and there in some Pro Series. Is this the game it wins? Doesn't feel like it. Taking a look at that bot lane where the AM will sit, of course, you've got Vincenzo around on the Abaddon. And, of course, Palos on that AM. They are going to be up against Zephyr and Cuckoo on the off lane. So that switch up, you know, Sand King going mid instead, Necrophos off. This is not a very fun lane for AM. You don't tend to want to go for a counter spell early on. You could try to melt Cuckoo's mana. He has a Kotl. It doesn't really matter too much. He can keep spamming out the Death Bolts, and that's decent damage onto Palos. Like, Vincenzo's got the shield to block some of the damage off. It's still going to be constantly chipping away at that AM.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, that mid matchup as well. The mid Sand King against Bob's mid Leshrac. Now, this is something you pointed out that Japui at one stage used to run quite a bit. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. What do you think, though, for Carl, like on this mid-SK? Do you think maybe he could make some magic happen on this hero and make it look really good?
Yeah, I think it can hold the lane pretty well. Again, Caustic, level 1 for Carl. Look at how low Bob is. It's not very pleasant at all.
No, certainly isn't. Bob, gonna pop the Diabolic Edict, though, and try to fight back now. Carl, gonna be just fine to walk away, though. Bob only with that level 1 Edict. Not gonna do too much damage as Carl's gonna move back in. The Burrow Strike, but not going to actually end up throwing it out anyway. Going to risk his own life. Tell you what, though, this bot lane that we just had a look at, it's been getting rather hard here for Palos as the Salve gets cancelled as well. And now mid lane, Burrow Strike back out onto Bob. Caustic is really starting to add up as Bob luckily gets the range creep denied, because had that Caustic gone off again, John, he probably would have been in big trouble.
Yeah, it's pretty painful. You have 75 range advantage on the Lesh over the Caustic. But if you're up close to the creep wave to kind of use your spells, it can be delicate. Or Carl?
Oh, he's gone a bit far now. Bob gonna try and punish. Oh, a couple more right clicks will do it, but the Sandstorm is there. Carl, leveling up just in the nick of time, is going to be able to survive. In the meantime, though, top lane looks like Whitemon's in trouble on this Bane, but is going to be able to walk his way out. And this is the final lane we haven't really discussed yet, John. Of course, you've got the Gabby Luna against Tino and Shanks on the DK Gyrocopter. And of course, Whitemon on the Bane. Does feel like Gabby should be just fine here. I don't see them being able to get too aggressive on this Luna.
Yeah, they can't quite jump in. You've got pretty defensive spell usage with Nightmare here for Whitemon to cut off the aggression. At the same time, it's not the easiest lane for Luna. Tino doesn't have any points in the Breed Fire, but there is aggression that can come through with the Gyro just running up. A Rocket Barrage is no joke. The damage output is pretty darn nice, and it's very spammable. So Shanks has done a great job of at least keeping Gabby a little bit behind, but it's not like Gabby's missing out on too much farm. Key thing here is, as the panel mentioned, Tino has to have a stable lane. He has to get that blink up. He's a lot of that early hold with a DK. And this lane is shaping up to be rather even back and forth, but of course, if you give a Luna an even lane, it's going to flash farm even faster. So you might find that farm in the DK, but you're not slowing down the Luna. Gabby is going to hit that mid-game spike and have his, Dragon Lance or Mask of Madness up a lot sooner and clear out some stacks.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a great time. Of course, you are going to have Bob on the Leshrac, who has that potential to take those stacks away. We'll see if Gabby can secure those stacks before they are taken. My main concern right now, though, John, for Execration at least, is bot lane's going horrendously right now for Palos. At 12 CS, not the greatest, and he does have the Ring of Health, but that was a Ring of Health rush. Unable to get anything else, and it's just been a massive struggle against this Necrocotl lane. Just nothing he can do. Look at this. Palos is gone.
God.
Zephyr secures first blood on the Keeper of the Light. Would you believe it, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's it's an AM. And the unfortunate thing for Palos as well, he was forced to take Counterspell at level 2. So, doesn't have Blink, can't really run away or try to be aggressive. He just wants to sustain in that lane. It's not enough to block a lot of the spam, right? Like, you have to worry about Illuminate, you have to worry about the Death Pulse. There's a lot that flies out here from T1 to control the lane, and there's only so much an Abaddon can do. Like, it's a very defensive support. You have the Aphotic Shield, you can't spam it as much, because T1 has so much regen with just having a Kotl. You gotta love the voice lines coming out. They love spamming it out, especially the Filipino ones. We do have a lot of Filipinos in this match, so tends to fly out, Mike.
Absolutely. I do appreciate Zephyr's usage of the Ape Esports voice line. What can you do, brother? Is Vincenzo's just trying to run away from this Illuminate. Luckily, he does have the Aphotic Shield, though, so he is going to be able to survive on that Abaddon, at least for a little bit longer. It's besides the point, though. I mean, this Anti-Mage already off to a terrible start and, already one death on the AM. And I don't think the lane gets any easier, right? It's Necrophos Kotl against AM Abaddon. Like, even if the Abaddon tries his best to protect you, it's still Necrophos Kotl.
Yeah, it's just very spammy. Lots of sustain that the Necrophos gives you. Lots of mana sustain Kotl gives you, so you can just keep shoving in a wave, make it nightmarish for
Gabby.
AM. Oh.
Top lane, Rocket Barrage going. Shanks still chasing for a little bit more, but can't keep up with the movement speed of the Luna. Is going to be forced to back off as Whitemon will salve up Gabby. Close call, though, for the Luna. Or for Execration, they certainly would love to take down this POS 1.
Yeah, and they're applying that pressure. They're trying to slow down Gabby. He has started to struggle a bit in keeping up in the CS. The offlaners are having a better time in comparison here to both safe laners right now. Tino's getting some good farm, and so is Cuckoo, as we've seen. So you are putting a dent on Gabby just a tad bit here. Not enough to really kill him off, but at the least slow down that Mask of Madness timing, slow down that snowball. And Whitemon can't leave the lane to even build up stacks. There's not even a recovery set up for Gabby just yet.
No, certainly not. You've always got to be very wary as well, because you are up against the Leshrac, so you don't want to set up those stacks too early. Because Bob is naturally going to have a big XP advantage against Gabby, and you can already see Bob in that mid lane having a great old time. Level 6, 28 and 18 on the Leshrac. Really not even being contested by Carl in the Sand King. I think if you are Execration, there is going to be a hell of a lot of reliance here on Bob to be able to carry you through this mid game. See if Bob can get it done. He's certainly off to a great start, though, and that's what you want to see if you're Execration. There's Carl. Oh. We chase down a nice gank attempt here from Execration. Split Earth is going to land, and Carl is going to drop. Bob able to take the kill, and well, now they can certainly get a hell of a lot of damage. If not, just take down this mid-tier 1 tower. However, Palos.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Does he go down here, John? Oh, the Illuminate! Not gonna quite clip him. Cuckoo's still chasing him down with the Heartstopper aura, but it's not gonna be enough.
It still drags the AM all the way back home. You do manage to get that mid-tier 1 in the process, so Execration understanding that the snowball has to come off from Bob. As the interview said, you know, they're collapsing onto mid, they're positioning the supports to contest Carl, they're making sure that Carl is not having that smooth start he wants, still stuck at level 5, a long way from the blink, no brown boots, has to go for the Hood of Defiance to sustain even in the middle of these fights, and Execration find the biggest objectives they could ask for. You know, with mid-tier 1 cleared out, top jungle's a little bit easier to invade, and they can focus on the top tier 1 with Bob making that rotation now.
Yeah, nice plays here from Execration. Just a lot of aggression here, a lot of emphasis to take down those objectives straight away. Again, so much pressure on Bob to make as much work as he can right now. Keep in mind, I mean, this whole time Cuckoo is free farming down at the bot lane, and you know, Necrophos, it's one of those heroes, John, you never really want to underestimate if it's off to a great start, and that is exactly what Cuckoo is off to. Still, top tier 1 tower, gonna be focused by Execration. Zephyr's gonna be there on the coddle though, but it might be a tough defense as Whitemon is gonna get jumped. Carl's gonna show up with the epicenter, but who are we aiming down? He'll go after the Abaddon. It'll be a 1-for-1 trade, but now he's in big trouble. A nice stun out. They've taken down Carl a second time. Zephyr is still trying to defend. He'll chase down Shanks a little bit, but he has no follow-up right now. Unless... No, it's off the mark.
Yeah, just great aggressive plays coming out from Execration. Even a nice little sentry ward outside the tower range, so they couldn't go for the D ward. Carl wasn't safe. He has to show up on the Sand King because you've got a pretty passive offlane. Like, you can be aggressive with Necrophos, but he tends to really be just a lane dominator. You want to play around with maybe the Reaper site. You don't have a value point in the Ghost Shroud for some control. So you aren't quite ready to just show up and run down. You also need that Hood of Defiance on Cuckoo as well. So there's some time T1 has to wait for some initial itemization, and that's a lot of time Execration's using well. Just constantly shoving in. Of course, you have to deal with the deep push of Zephyr. Creep Wave Denver survives for too long up against that Keeper of the Light, and that is the stall-out mechanic T1 needs to ensure that there's still farm room to be had here.
Well, Tino's going to try and move in. Zephyr, though, very nice jukes out of the tree line. Carl will show up again top lane, so a lot of emphasis on trying to defend that top tier 1. And they are doing a great job of it. I mean, with Zephyr, as long as he does survive, chances are it's going to be a very slow process. The Illuminate continues to fly through with the blinding light. But now with the edict out from Bob, they'll have their way with this tier 1. In fact, they might even try to go after Carl. In the meantime, Gabby's been chased down mid lane. Palos almost finding the Luna kill, but not quite enough.
Yeah, he is applying pressure, and he's doing a good job of keeping up with Luna. Gabby's farm is equally as slow. Both of the pause ones kind of tied in at 3.2k. So not enough room for Gabby to farm up. And Luna, no stacks again, really built up. So not much flash farm to get. There is the triangle set up with a couple of stacks. But you still don't have that Mask of Madness fully done. So it is a slow process. And Execration's having much more presence. So despite both pause ones getting that slow start, Execration feels a lot stronger because they're building off this foundation Bob has laid out, and as long as they keep applying this pressure, as long as they keep shutting down the map, it feels good.
Yeah, Palos get caught out. Carl gonna put the hand up for a high five, giving him the wave. And well, Palos, he tried to use the counter spell to get himself out, but it was not quite enough. Carl was just very patient, along with the Bane Nightmare. It's, as well as this AM's doing right now, John, you certainly don't want to see deaths like that.
No, you can't afford to give deaths like that. That does give Gabby a slight lead. Vincenzo now being caught out as well.
Certainly has, but they aren't going to have the damage to follow up. So they will secure the power rune for Carl, and that'll be enough for them. And I think for Carl in particular, I mean, you're playing mid Sand King, John. He hasn't had the greatest time. I think at the very least, Carl probably just wants to really get that Blink Dagger up and online before he keeps going any further.
Yeah, he's got to hit that blink. He needs to be the initiator for the team. It's the same thing kind of like with the Leshrac. He's going to be setting the momentum. He's going to be the aggressor for a lot of these engagements of T1. Execration going for their smoke play now. Looking to just try to capitalize. They don't have the blink yet on Tino, but they managed to find an opportunistic kill to be big. Cuckoo showing top. Does have the cloak, but not the full Hood of Defiance, so he's still pretty burstable with magic damage here.
Cuckoo. He jumped now. Stun will land into the follow-up. He never got the Ghost Round off, but no, he does get it barely in time. And that may have saved his life. At least for now, as Vincenzo's even going to move in. Cuckoo dropping lower is going to drop. Execration able to find a big one. They got the Necrophos down, and that's the highest net worth here on the map right now. Definitely a great kill here for the Radiant.
It's what they needed. Now just take away the greedy offlane of T1 that's still trying to build up. Hood of Defiance is finished, is a bit more durable. We haven't seen the effect of him running up with the Reapers yet. You know, they haven't had that setup come out from T1. So all this gold being invested on Necro, still waiting for really the Sand King to be ready to follow through.
So they're going to find the Abaddon here. No Fiend's Grip necessary. Vincenzo going to drop. Still lacking that level 6 on the Abaddon, just barely. T1. Again, it seems like they're more than satisfied to drag out the game a little bit. Again, you kind of brought it up a few times now, but Gabby, still quite behind in net worth. Needs a bit more time to catch up. I suppose you also, again, want to allow Carl that time to get that blink timing up, and he should have it very soon, but you're best off just waiting.
Just need a little bit of patience coming through here. The farm difference between the AM and the Luna is going to kick up to gear, especially once that Mask of Madness is done for Gabby. And it is flying out now. AM still waiting for full Battle Fury, lacking 2 parts, so it's a lot longer until the AM can really flash farm as he pleases, and that's going to be T1 Spike. Once you have a couple of items up on your Luna in comparison to the AM, lining up with the blink timing here for Carl, you can kick things into overdrive and start running down. Bursting heroes down, holding them with grip, playing with that Burrow Strike. Blink is up for Carl now, so this could be a perfect moment for T1 if they want to go for a smoke play.
They might try. In fact, they're already running into Execration as we speak. Vincenzo, though, this time does have level 6, so he feels a lot more tanky. But there is your smoke you talked about. Carl, Zephyr, and Whitemon right behind Cuckoo on the Necrophos as Tino going to show himself, but this is all bait. They think they've got a free target, but that's not the case. Carl, he'll make the jump in with the Epicenter onto Tino. That'll be your Dragon Knight gone. They'll even commit the Reaper's Scythe just in case. Shanks, he'll be okay to TP up, but I can't say the same for Vincenzo. Will eventually get stunned up. Does pop the borrowed time, but there's your Fiend's Grip from Whitemon. No playing around. They want everything they can get, and they will take it.
Just playing around at Blink, having that initiation changes things for T1. So now they can jump in, they can pick through some of these heroes, isolate some of that backline, and start finding some kills. Execration, you know, they're still stalling for Palos, and Bob is still working his way towards Akaya Sanj. Not quite the tankiest up front for that Lesh. You know, it's not like he has an IO this game. It's not like you've got Tether healing. You are very vulnerable to the burst that can come through from T1. So they can't quite just play behind that. And even Tino, with all his aggression, his blink is still stalled out. He went for the Hood of Defiance as well. And that means no initiation as well for Execration.
Oh, nice little still there, Carl. Being chased down now by Bob on the Lesh. He's fighting over the power rune. Carl does manage to swipe it away and gives him the voice line immediately. One of my favorites, by the way, John, the Sand King voice lines. Very, very good.
Yep.
They will walk away.
Often really nice and, you know, worthy of a king looking down upon us peasants. Carl's been spamming that the entire time, so glad to see he's still in high spirits. T1 still maintaining a really good lead here, Mike. 4-6, 2k lead, not much, but you can see the position of your 3 cores, all above the bottom 2 cores of Palos and Tino. So you are getting some momentum back. You're locking Execration away from this big spike they're expecting by the 15 to 20 minute mark with a Leshrac, with a DK. It feels like after they've taken these tier 1 towers, Execration's been on the back foot. Like they haven't been able to be as aggressive as they want to be. And I think that's something that's missing. They will go for the smoke play now with Bob, Vincenzo, and Tino. Still no blink from DK. So jumping up is still a tough prospect, but they could isolate someone here.
Now they've got Cuckoo. Smoke will be broken, but Cuckoo is completely alone, and I doubt his team gets there in time to try and help him out. The Ghost Shroud is going to be there in time, but Bob still just with the Pulse Nova doing so much damage. But Cuckoo, he's still out of there. At least for now, he's running. He may have made it as now Carl comes in with the Burrow Strike Epicenter on Bob. Oh, he cops the Reaper Scythe and he's going to drop. Cuckoo somehow still alive. as he gives the voice lines. Oh, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt for Execration as now they move in for more. T1 not done yet. Still Palos. He'll jump in. He'll try to get something done, but he drops so low so quick. He's gonna make his own blink out, and he will make it, but Cuckoo, he'll take the kill onto Shanks. Onto Vincenzo they go. That'll be another. How does he survive that one, Jonathan? You tell me.
Oh.
Palos,
Yeah.
he's gonna blink up. The drums are popped, they are chasing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, right clicks might just be enough here, but Palos, he has the blink. He'll be okay.
Oh man. What can you do? It's a Necrophos. He's got Ghost Shroud. He pops his wand, pops the pipe for some mitigation from the Leshrac damage, and he had Zephyr around with his ult. So Illuminate heals, even at nighttime. You know, even though it says daytime heals only, you get hit by the Illuminate ult at night. From the Kotl, you still have some. They might isolate Bob here.
Yeah, that's a big target. Bob, the highest net worth hero right now on the side of Execration. Going to be protected by Vincenzo, but the Burrow Strike is in. He's dropping too low. Bob needs to run. He'll make it out. I can't say the same for the Abaddon, though. Vincenzo, he's going to drop, but they're going to counter-initiate. Palos moving in, trying to protect Tino on this Dragon Knight, but the magic damage is way too high. The Palos is right back to farming. I don't think he can commit to these fights. Not the way he is right now.
No, the AM needs so much more here, Mike. You definitely need a Manta style. You want to remove a lot of that Solar Bind. You want to be able to remove a lot of the debuffs that T1 are constantly applying. And again, you can just see T1. A switch has been flicked on. With that blink timing on Carl, with a couple of items up on Gabby, they are ready to commit. They're ready to run down. They can take objectives fast. They can contest the jungle really quick. And they just have a lot of uptime on your aggression, enabled by the Kotl. You know, you just keep pumping out the chakra, you have all the stuns in the world, you can keep running. Whereas for Execration, you know, it's not like they have long cooldowns they wait for as well. It feels like it's hinging on Tino getting a blink now, right? Like, that's a big difference. We see a blink on T1, they initiate. No blink initiation on Execration. They have to keep running up. It makes their movement really telegraphed as we see a full team disconnect from Execration.
Oh, here we go. This is the classic, Jonathan. The classic all-team DC. The Filipino classic, as you like to point it out. There we go. All right, John. I hope you've got some talking points here. This might be a long one.
Oh, yeah. You know how it is. Filipino internet, this is a bit of a classic, well, not really a classic Rambulan. I guess I do have a talking point, you know, for T1. They've got March in. You know, that's pretty cool. I'm always hyped to see March. We were always having this conversation, right, for T1, where for a while they just weren't boot camping. You know, like even last tour, they weren't together. They're together now, and they finally have Coach March. It's good to see. We can always reminisce about what March does. Force feeding of the mangoes. That moment will always stand out to me. He was on like a support Slardar, helping his Medusa, and just force feeding the mangoes. Like that's a next level stuff.
For anyone that doesn't remember that game, that highlight, as I like to say, John, I believe his carry was chronoed, right? It was a Medusa versus Void. He got chronoed, and March, all he wanted to do was just keep force feeding mangoes. Who was it, by the way? Who was it? Gabby? Was it Gabby who was force feeding? It was somebody.
I think it was either a TNC game or a Team Dog game, and I can't recall which one. So I want to say TNC, Gabby, and he was force-feeding Gabby mangoes. So, you know, March is a man of business, and if he needs you to perform, he will force you to do stuff. That was the time when Mango Tree was still a neutral, right? He had like 9 mangoes. Like his inventory was literally just like 4. So 12 mangoes, 4 stacks of mangoes, I think. It was pretty beautiful. And I think that will stand out as March's most defining moment to me from any games we've casted. And again, it's good to see March back. You know, we were talking. Do you reckon he has the whip out, Mike? Do you think he looked pretty happy. He looked pretty laid back there.
I mean, the opposing team chose anti-mage, John. There's nothing to be upset about. He looked at the draft. He's like, oh, we got a free win. Look at that. I guess that's game 1 down the drain at least. Looking forward to game 2. I mean, March. Well, like you said, John, he's there now. They've got the support of their coach. The Mango March legacy is upon us once again here for T1. Very, very exciting to see. By the way, I will update the viewers. I know they get a little bit upset in these moments, John. There is no reconnections yet. We are still waiting to see when Execration is going to reconnect. John, talk to me about your fashion style. You're looking very, very attractive today. Obviously, you know, you've got the shirt on above the black t-shirt, a classic look with the shades on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what made you
no.
decide to look so handsome today, Jonathan?
Honestly, I get a lot of my wardrobe tips from my sister and my mom. So think about the fashion sense. You know, last time around when we were casting like 2 years ago, I just put on a shirt. I didn't really care how I looked. And then my parents like, hey, stop it. My mom's like, stop it. You're on camera. People see you. Put on something nice. So I started wearing collared shirts. Now they're giving me a bunch of polos. They're giving me these. They watch sometimes, you know. My parents watch, so they want me to look good. I hope they're fine. I hope they're fine out there, you know, with how
Are they
I look
watching
today.
right now, John?
I think they're in the grocery right now, so they're not watching.
Oh.
My sister's got better things to do as well. She's got work, so you know, can't spend all the time watching your older brother cast.
Oh no, I was asking for me, Jonathan. I was wondering if they're watching me. Nothing about you. Shout out to johnxfire's family. Shout out to you guys. I know you're not watching right now, but I appreciate you tuning in to listen to the glorious play-by-play. And well, I mean, John's obviously there as well, so I'm sure they appreciate that. There you go. Still, no reconnections yet. Unfortunately, Execration still not within the game yet, so could be again another long wait. Good to see your internet's been holding up though, Jonathan. I feel like you should be out there giving internet connection advice to these teams, considering somehow you're the one that's still connected.
I have no clue. Look, you know, a while ago, people weren't seeing it on the cams, but as we went into the game, I heard a popping sound, like, right outside my house, and then I smelled electric fire. So it's like, do I have to run out and try to put out a fire right now? And fortunately, no. But, you know, I don't know why. Like, this stuff happens to me. You know, sometimes my neighbors are just burning a lot of leaves, and my room's very stuffy. This time around, I got, like, plastic fumes, which certainly isn't healthy, Mike. But, you know, it's the challenges. You know, you live in this country, sometimes it's like hardwood, Mike. You get really hot weather. In the case of Boom last time, you get a really bad power company. You know, it's living on hardwood, Mike. Well, maybe not as hard as Australia. Yeah, maybe not as hard as there.
I'm not talking about Boom Esports either, John. They have not sent me a jersey. I've been in negotiation talks with Gary. He's been ignoring all my messages, so I'm not happy with Boom Esports whatsoever. We won't bring them up, Jonathan. No more. They won't get any more praise from me until Gary responds to my messages. You know, I'm making very, very, you know, easy demands, Jonathan. I'm not requesting too much. We'll talk about it later, though.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah, I'm sure you want to keep those terms under, you know, an NDA for now. I'm sure those private conversations with Gary's working out. I think the one thing that stood out for me recently for Boom is, okay, this is unrelated to their games, but Yopaj was streaming. Tim's shared a stream and said, send this guy some stars so he can buy some briefs. It's like, first, Japoy doesn't have an iPhone. Now you're saying his underwear has been taken away. What's happening with Boom? What's happening with him?
I mean, on top of that, you haven't accepted his offer to go over for dinner yet, which is, you know, I imagine he's heartbroken right now, poor old Japoy, just waiting for your acceptance, your RSVP, Jonathan. When are you accepting that dinner, John? I mean, you can't keep blaming it on the pandemic, surely.
I mean, he's not in my city, you know? He's in the boot camp. That's like that's like a flight away. It's really far. It's actually, you know, I'm in the south. That's all the way in Luzon. I'm in Mindanao. That's like an island. There's a sea between us and a bunch of islands, Mike. So maybe when he's back in Davao, we can get that done. You know, hang out with parents. Maybe we drag in Jing. Maybe we drag in all the other Davao boys, you know? We'll have a party here. And you're invited too, Mike, if you could make it to Davao. I don't know if you could.
Am I really?
Sure.
Oh, thank you for that, Jonathan. For once I got invited. That's very good to see. I was actually talking to someone in chat earlier about coming down to the Philippines later on this year, which I am intending on making the trip. I did state that you, in particular, promised me a lechon, Jonathan, which I believe is how you pronounce it. You pronounced me some. You said I could have some lechon at your family's house, right? I expect some fantastic cooking. People have been telling me that they have better lechon than you do, so now there's a competition going on between you and the viewers to see who has the best lechon. John, how would you rate your family's lechon? I mean, out of 10, give me a number.
You make it sound like we cook the damn thing. We don't cook the lechon ourselves. We buy it. Okay, it's a whole roast pig, Mike. We don't have the time to roast for 8 hours. We buy it. and I guess we know a couple of good Lechon spots. So yeah, it should be pretty nice. I don't know. I actually have a hard time judging Lechon. So there's this whole regional thing, like, where I think it's Cebu's Lechon is known as the best. I've tried it. I think my family finds it a bit too salty. So I don't know. Davao Lechon is a weird one. It's not. We're not really known for Lechon. I'm not sure how Manila Lechon is, because every time I'm with my family there, we kind of eat in restaurants. We don't tend to order a big Lechon.
Wow.
It's more expensive in Manila as well. You know, it's a metro city. Like, I'm in the province. The farms are right there. Everything's a lot cheaper, so it's easier for us to have that. And I know. I know how to rate my Lechon. It's like, I know what to look for in Lechon. I'm honestly pretty uncultured when it comes to a whole roast pig, Mike. I'm not so good at figuring out what's good.
So when I come down to the Philippines, am I able to fly straight to Davao City, John? Or do I have to go to Manila first and then
I
make
think
my
you'd
way
have
over?
to stop Manila. Oh, wait, I'm trying to think. Do
Well,
we
how do I
we
get
might
there,
have
John?
direct flights. I think we do have direct flights to Australia, because
Wow.
I'm not sure. I think there are a couple of Sydney flights, but yeah, that's a good question. I think it's easier to go through Manila for you, though. Like, there are more flights, easier to book. I'm not sure if the pandemic's cut off a lot of those flights to Australia, but you could go Manila. You could spend some time there. Maybe you drop by some boot camps. Say hi to Boo, say hi to Talon, say hi to T1, say hi to Execration, Neon. Everyone's stuck there. Fnatic. And then go down to
I'll be
Cebu
done.
before going to Davao. Say hi to Polaris. Then head
I'll
down
be
here
visiting
and we'll party.
T1's. I'll be visiting T1's boot camp. I've got to have a very, very stern conversation still about that Venno pick at TI-10, John. I have not forgotten. They have not escaped my grasp yet. I'm going to visit T1 and we'll have a very big chat about that drafting issue that I saw at TI-10. Still very, very upset about what happened, Jonathan. We should have won that one, for sure. Should have been ours. 100%.
Yeah, sometimes, Mike, we've had this conversation, right? And we've noticed this with a lot of our beloved Korean players, Febby, March, Forev. All of them have a tendency to just love Venomancer sometimes. When backs are against the wall,
It's because of StarCraft.
they go back to Veno.
It's because that you know why it is. They just think of StarCraft. They see the Venomancer. We get it. It's not a good hero. This is Dota 2. It's not StarCraft. You can't Zergling rush anything in this game. So please stop picking Venomancer. Stop picking AM and Viper as well, by the way. They're terrible heroes. Absolutely terrible.
You know what isn't terrible, though, Mike? The reconnections are here. And we're just
Wow.
waiting for Discord issues to fix itself out. There was a bit of a brownout. So obviously the power companies, again, conspiring to give us these massive pauses and waits in the CDPC, but it is what it is sometimes, Hard mode, Mike.
Well, you said it was hot, right, in the Philippines right now. So, I mean, you said it was hot, but I think you mentioned it was like 27 degrees, which isn't... I mean, no offense, John. That's not very hot when you're talking to an Australian.
Yeah, I think it was wrong. I think it's more like 38, as we do finally have the on pause, so you can thank your lucky stars. You have to stop watching us talk about nonsense. And we're back in the game, Mike. 5 to 11.
I thought it was pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. Maybe someday when you get to the Philippines, we can actually have more to talk about, being here, instead of these past 3 years of saying, oh, Mike, you should head down here. For 3 years, that's been one of our talking points. Get down here. 3 years.
Another talking point here, John. Mid lane, Carl. Very aggressive position on that Sand King, but he's going to back off. They won't make the jump in. Of course, with these long pauses, you tend to lose track of what the hell was happening in game one. But 7k net worth advantage for T1. Gabby has completely overtaken in terms of net worth. Completely online now as this Luna. Of course, Palos does have Battle Fury on the anti-mage, but he is still quite far behind. And, well, now he's kind of getting swarmed here by T1 down that bot lane as they make their way over. Carl, see if he does spot him out in time.
Radiant's courier.
I'm on there as well. And, oh, they do, but the Burrow Strike. It's off the mark. Just a little bit short.
Are scanning.
I mean, you still got a chance at Shanks, but he's going to TP, and Whitemon is not going to make it in time. The Execration can be just fine here down at this bot lane.
Managed to bail out in the nick of time. So T1 just going to have to farm up. They have another smoke, though. So they'll pop a smoke this time around, get the rotation, good line drawn onto the triangle. They know Palos is just falling back to build up. And they still have that epicenter ready to go on Carl. So you should be able to find the angle. They've got a pretty good low ground ward here to spot anyone playing by the tier 2. And they just need to work that out. Although, they see Tino instead.
They do. And Tino, well, he's quite tanky, but not tanky enough. I mean, nice easy pick off there for T1. And with the BKB up now on Gabby, it seems like they're more than happy to just go after that tier 2 bottom tower. There's not really much in the way of stopping them right now. In fact,
Carl up top.
top lane. Yeah, epicenter burrow strike out onto Bob. Whitemon right behind. Does get the nightmare. Has the Fiend's grip as well, but just waiting on Vincenzo to use that aquatic shield. It won't matter. Reaper Sight's gonna fly out. And poor old Vincenzo, well, he was trying to help, but he's gonna pay for it quite heavily, as he will lose his own life. And hell, if you're T1 right now, John, you're thinking about Roshan.
Yeah, you can just rush in. You've got the damage output with Gabby. They're hooking up. They got the lanes in pretty good position to get this done as well. You might be able to find a couple though, Shanks.
Go, Shanks. Taken down immediately here by Zephyr. So hard once you cop that solar bind. Just so hard to get away. And that tier 2 mid tower not going to last very long either. Very easy for Team 1. This is something the panel talked about as well, John. When you've got that Luna on your side of things, pushing objectives is not difficult whatsoever. That's exactly what they'll keep doing. And again, if you're T1, I still think you look at Roshan at the moment.
You've got control of the triangle. There is good vision here from Execration to watching that Roche pit and the nearby areas. The top jungle's warded, the tier 1 area is warded on the Dire side. So if you do go for Roche, Execration will be aware. And Execration are going for a smoke play right now.
But they are. Who do they find? Line being drawn out does lead to Carl and Zephyr. Either one would probably be a great kill right now, but they're going to miss out on Carl. Instead, Zephyr is still around. If they can catch him out, and with the Dragon Tail they will. That'll be one. Team 1 almost thought about rushing in there to try and force the fight, but it'll be a disadvantageous position for them, so they'll leave it be for now. Just wait it out for another time, I think.
That's a
Never
pretty
mind.
big pick-off. Zephyr is worth 7k net worth, just about the same level as Tino. T1 will go for that smoke play now, but you have to appreciate that. Zephyr matching an offlane.
Yeah, I certainly do, John. Bob, he's just gone instantly. Vincenzo not able to move in and help out. They don't even require the Reaper's Sight for the Leshraken. But with the Nightmare, they can just hold Vincenzo down. And there's your Reaper's Sight. Roshan time.
Yeah. Again, there is
maybe
that
not.
ward watching. Carl?
Palos. He's going to be okay. They will go after Roshan.
Yeah. Doesn't take too long. Damage output of Gabby is good. And they can always just sustain Whitemon. Kind of tank the front. Death Seeker's there to cut off Fascist. Not the quickest rush, but they will get it done eventually. Doesn't feel like Execration has too much team fight. I think that's one thing their lineup really lacking. They've got a lot of AoE control with Lesh, but I mean, from the offlane, you've got the single target stun. Your supports don't really offer the best stuns. Homing missile is one, but it's very delayed. So you're really hinging on like a good jump in from Bob, mainly a good jump in from Tino, and you can only keep one hero down. So you have to somehow split T1 up to kind of find that opportunity with the DK, and it feels like if you managed to get that blink on Tino much earlier, you could have played a lot faster. Instead, he had to go for Hood of Defiance. His lane was a lot more even than you'd like it to be. He was ganked up a couple of times. The slower blink has really taken away a lot of that momentum from Execration, because we saw Bob have a really good time mid. Right? He was handling mid really well. They had the supports collapse in, enabling that Lesh, but they didn't have a way to keep that momentum going because of Tino getting stalled out, and you're seeing the effects of that now. 12k lead for T1, just because there's a lot of dead time there that Gabby could use to farm up and Carl used to get his blink.
Yep. At least you do have the Manta now up on Palos, but again, you're still not at a stage where you're ready to fight. Maybe once the Skadi's there, the AM does feel a bit stronger and a bit more able to join these engagements, but he may go now. A lot of TPs coming in. Palos will join in. We'll try and focus down Cuckoo, but the Nightmare is going to save, or maybe not. They've drained all the mana, but now Gabby with the Eclipse trying to move in onto Bob, onto Vincenzo. Who are we actually aiming? Bob, he's still alive, but not for long. A big Burrow Strike epicenter. Carl's in. Tino's in trouble. On the DK, he's going to drop. And Shanks, well, he may not make it out either. It was a decent start. They focused down the Necro, but that's about all they get, along with Whitemon, and they'll pretty much wipe the whole team out apart from Palos.
And that opens up the high ground. No Dragon Form on the respawn here for Tino, and the siege is simple.
Another Burrow Strike, Carl getting the double stun off. Palos, so much damage being taken, as the Solar Bind's going to slow him down. Chakra Magic, John. You love it.
Yep, double stuns for Carl. Makes it nice and simple to pin down an AM, and as we talked about, the AM needs so much more. Manta is up, but you don't have the stats to stand and fight. Scotty has to come through. T1 not in a good position anymore to keep that push up with respawns coming in, so they'll play it safe, they'll back off. They still have Aegis for 3 minutes here, Mike. A lot more time. They can think about re-engaging after a slight reset, and they maintain a 16k lead. 8-22. Looking good for T1 so far. That fast pace is kicking in. I mean, Execration did look good a while ago. Again, they had some shining moments, especially in the laning phase into the early mid game, but they just gave way too much time away, and now it's all about stalling out for this AM to grow bigger and bigger, and maybe try to build up a little bit more onto Bob as well.
Well, speaking of the Devil John, Bob has been caught behind a burrow strike of Carl right into the epicenter and the Reaper side. It's so hard to fight into this. It's T1, they're more than happy to keep it going. Vincenzo, he'll tank a lot of the damage flying out, but Gabby right in onto the gyrocopter going for another target, and there goes Shanks. Vincenzo, he's gone as well. No chance of survival. Might be high ground time.
Yep, still have Aegis for 2 minutes here. Full Silver Edge up on Gabby. Damage is looking good. You have Dragon Form back up in Tino, so you can wave clear a little bit with the Fireball, but how do you take these fights? Again, the team fight angle is just very difficult for Execration here.
You have that constant heal coming up from Zephyr to boot it, and that makes it such a hard kind of initiation, right? Because you can't actually just dwindle away at their HP pools. They'll always be max HP with Zephyr behind them. That'll be one lane of barracks down. Onto the second. You are still playing against the Luna, so she does have to take Raxus quite fast. Poor old Shanks. Gonna have to back off. Gabby. Still a minute on that Aegis left. They won't stop. They'll go for 2, and I think after that it'll be time to back off. Otino gonna jump in. There goes Palos as well, but he's been caught out again. No chance. Is the top Rax is gone, and T1, they might force the buyback and go for T4 towers.
Yeah, can't quite go for Mega Creeps. Tier 2 still standing bot, but you have a Luna. The glaives just bounce around. This is not going to take too long to melt through 2 Tier 4 towers here.
Carl channeling up the Epi. Is pump faking right now, warning them. Palos still not buying back, just being very patient as they'll go on to Tino now with the break, the Dragon Knight. Just not tanky enough, and now the Eclipse. Vincenzo just can't survive as Palos is still not buying back. Gabby, almost hoping to die at this point, does finally go down. He needed the reset. But this game, I mean, it's basically over. There's no buyback coming out. There we go. Palos is now going to move in, but they've lost Tino a second time.
It's... They don't have much fight. Yep. It's a rough one for Execration. I think, again, it just came down to maybe timing from the off. They had this really strong start for Bob. The mid lane went surprisingly well. Execration played as they said in the interview. Right? They went in, guns blazing onto mid, trying to pressure Carl, trying to ensure Bob gets off to a good start. They found the tier 1 mid really fast. But what took time here for Execration? That blink initiation on Tino took way too long. Like, by the time he had to blink up, T1 managed to find a lot more, and I think for Execration, maybe having something that can give them more teamfight to follow through with Lesh on the off lane next time round is the way to go, or just giving Tino a stronger start, because again, it felt like the follow-through for the Leshrac start was tough.
How are you going to blame Tino for that game? Come on now. How you had that great of a start, you're going to blame Tino on the DK? What if they had a POS 1 that actually did something, John? I mean, Tino, you expect Tino to just carry the game with an... It's not that easy, Jonathan. I mean, all right, props to you. Tino didn't get the blink fast enough. What were you going to do after that? Who's your carry, John? You see my point. Anyway, we're going to head off to a very short break, and after that break, we'll be back with our panel, and we'll see how Game 2's draft goes. We'll see you then.